Hi everybody, good morning. It's Reva with Quality Sewing and Vacuum, and I'm so excited that you joined me today. We're going to be talking about a thready problem today. Actually, we're going to talk through the different weights of threads. And I got to tell you, I love it when you guys interact and you ask questions. And this was a question that was actually asked at one point in time. I might not be able to get it to you the very next week, but I do my best to get you answer your questions, right? So pop those in the chat if you have any questions as we go along. But anyway, let's talk about different threads, because there are so many different weights of threads, and they all do, it's for a reason, right? It's for a specific purpose. So let's start with general sewing. Now, I will call this, and we're going to, you know what? We're also going to talk about why you want a certain thread over a different thread, because I don't think I can keep from telling you that. But let's talk about construction thread. A construction thread or a sewing thread, I'll call it construction because I'm constructing something, I'm making something. Maybe I'm sewing a top or whatever. So a sewing thread is usually polyester in the core, and then it has a cotton or a cotton finish around the outside. Now, they're generally a 40 weight. Now, let's talk about weight. Let's put that out there right now, right? Because I know a lot of you are going, I don't understand weights. So the weight of a thread is, from what I understand, is if they take thread and they take X amount length of thread and they put it in a puddle and they weight it, that's how much it would weigh. So the higher the number the thread, the longer the strand is to make that weight. So it would take a longer amount of thread to make a lightweight thread. So it's going to have a higher number, 100, 80, 60. You know, it's going to be a higher number. The higher the number, the thinner the thread. The thicker the thread, the lower the number. So 12 weight is heavier than a 40 weight. Okay, but usually with sewing thread, you really don't need to worry too much about what its weight is. It's your standard sewing thread. It's strong. Personally, I like having the polyester thread. This one is 100% polyester, and it's just really super strong. And I know that bleaching it isn't going to degrade the thread. It's going to last. And there's not much you can do to it to make it be a problem. Also, dyeing of polyester and cotton is different. So if you have a polyester thread, it's color fast. So because your just household washing isn't going to make it bleed, which is really a beautiful thing. So anyhow, that's your standard construction thread. Now let's get Reva's opinion about construction thread. Buy quality thread, and that goes for everything. If you find a good deal and they're 5 spools for $1, guess what? It's not going to be good thread. If you have a beautiful set of thread, which I do from my mom and my grandma, those belong in a jar so you can look at them. Because if they're on a styrofoam spool or a wood spool, they're really pretty, but they're probably rotten, because light and age and environment take its toll on thread, and it can degrade the thread. So then it will become deteriorated. And I will tell you a story. I was doing Sew Fun. I know a lot of you go to Sew Fun, and I had painstakingly made every detail perfect on a pair of pants for one of the Sew Funs, and this was probably 24 years ago, right? A long time ago. And I noticed that my thread, it was a beautiful brand of thread. It was a Gutermann thread, construction thread, and I've had it for a long time, so I assumed it was fine, right? But it was really giving me little lint specks, and I thought, well, it's just linty. And it did go through my mind. I thought, I wonder how old this thread is, but I kept going. So after Sew Fun was over, and they were really beautiful, had welt pockets, the whole bit, right? I put them on to go out to dinner with my husband. I sat down in the car and the whole seat ripped out because the thread was rotten. So what a bummer, because I had taken all the time to make these pants, and then it was a wasted effort. So please make sure, just general, keep your thread out of direct sunlight. You want to make sure you can keep dust off it if possible. And then if it's old, when in doubt, throw it out, right? Okay. So anyhow, construction thread. Also, like I said, if it's cheap, there's a reason it's cheap and you don't want to use it. It could be rotten. It could be a bad brand or a bad quality of thread. And when you're working with an inferior quality of thread, it will put more mess inside your machine and cause extra lint, and it could shred and get hung up in there. So that's not a good thing either. I try to stay away from dual duty. If it says it's a dual duty thread, it's not like it used to be, right? I know that we grew up using it, but it's not the same thread anymore. Also, depending on where you buy the thread, you can have a brand that you've used for years and you know it's a beautiful quality thread, and then you notice something's changed. Check, because there's a thread that may be made in Germany, and then if you look at it at one of the box stores, it's made in Mexico. So it's not the same mill. So I'm not saying that that's a bad thread, but test it. Make sure it's not overly linty and it's not going to give your machine problems, and you don't want it to be soft and brittle. That's going to give your project a problem. Okay, so that's construction thread. Now you can also do construction on a serger. Now the numbering system for your thread may also have a slash after it, and then so it might say 50/2. Okay, and that means it's a 2-ply thread. And I'm not saying that's what this is. I'm just saying that that's what that means. So if you want to work on your serger, this is a great thread. It is, I don't exactly know the weight of this one because it's weighted in a scale other than the 40, 20, 40, 60 kind of a thing. But it's lighter weight than our construction thread. You can probably barely see that there is a difference there. But the reason why is this is serger thread. Now, serger thread needs to go back to it when you weave over it. On the edges of the serger, your threads are weaving to make that covered edge, right? So if you were using this thread, it would give you a really bulky seam. It would not lay as flat. And if you're working with a beautiful rayon or a silk, then your seam's going to show when you press it. So this, the bulge, right? So this is going to be lighter weight. And even if you're working with jeans, you don't want to have all that extra thread in there. So your serger thread is a lighter weight thread. Okay, and it just by the nature of it. Same thing goes with serger thread. When you're looking at your threads, your thread should be smooth and there shouldn't be slubs in it. There's thread that I've a name brand that we've been using for a long time, and if you look at it now, it has slubs every once in a while. It may be subtle, but that's going to give you inconsistent stitches, and it's going to cause it could cause skip stitches. It could cause pulls and things like that. So just be aware of that. Okay, so that is sewing and serging. Let's talk quilting. Quilting, there are a lot of different threads out there for quilting. You have piecing, and then you also have the quilting part. So, and we'll talk about the quilting part, but let's talk about piecing first. So you have, and I'm gonna put him over here. So you have generally when you're quilting, most people like to use a 50 weight. Wasn't that great of me to choose a gray thread so you could totally not see it over the mat, right? But the 50 weight thread, so that's a little bit lighter weight than the sewing thread, right? And the reason why you want a lighter weight thread for piecing is because when you're piecing and you stitch your pieces together and you open them up and flip them this way so your seam's there and you opened it flat, the action of getting this fabric up and over your stitched line actually takes space out of your finished block size. So you want to have a thinner thread so it's not bulky in that seam, so you can actually end up with a 4-inch block if that's what you're going for, and not a 3.875 or whatever. Okay, so you can get quilting thread in a bunch of different ways, and these are all 50 weight threads. So there's different manufacturers. This one is 100% cotton. This one is polyester with a cotton finish, and this one is a polyester core with a cotton on the outside. So they're all good, and some people prefer to use 100% cotton, and that's great. You know, go for it. But there's nothing wrong with polyester. It will last. The seams will not rip out unless you have a specific reason why you want cotton, because a lot of people do because they want to match the fiber content of the quilt. Good for you. You do what you want to do. I'm not that person. These are all my threads, so I will use any one of these depending on what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm not that person. Then you also you can get it quilting thread by the cone. So this is a quilting thread, and it's I think this one's a 2-ply. I think so. But it's it's similar in weight to the Serger thread, but it's still much finer than a construction thread, and it's more akin to the regular quilting thread. But this is a nice piece, a nice one to use for your actual quilting of your layers together. Now, when you're quilting, there's two different ways you can look at it. You either want your threads to kind of blend in and meld with the surface, or you want them to stand out. So if you're doing your quilting and you're not really overly comfortable with your quilting skills, use a lighter weight thread so it blends into the surface of your fabric. So this is a 40 and this is an 80 weight. 80 weight is a really nice fine thread, and it will blend in really, really well. And it's great to put on the bobbin too, and you can even use this for embroidery bobbin thread, because it is so fine, you can get more on the bobbin. If you want the thread and the stitches to stand out, then you can use something like a decorative quilting thread that is a heavier weight. And again, the weight may have been once for a weight and measure, but it's also the thickness of that thread. It is a much thicker in appearance, and then that will give more of a bold look to your project. So that's something to look for there. Again, this is 100% cotton. This is happens to be a poly, and this is a poly with a cotton finish. So, you know, you pick what works for you and your project. And I will say that a lot of big name quilters that you've seen there that do, you know, work that everyone has seen, they're using a 40 weight polyester for their quilting now. And that is very much like an embroidery thread. And it is actually an embroidery thread that they're using. Embroidery thread is awesome to use for your quilting because it comes in so many beautiful colors. Now this is a 40 weight embroidery thread, and absolutely beautiful. It is a trilobular thread, and so it has a high sheen. Some embroidery threads don't have that trilobular finish, so they have a little bit more of a, not matte, but a little bit less shiny look to them, and those are really beautiful too. This trilobular one here, though, is designed to look like rayon embroidery thread. So embroidery thread will come generally in polyester or in rayon, and the difference with the rayon, I'll tell you, is it is beautiful, it's soft, it's extremely drapey, but it can be prone to breakage, and it's not color fast. So if you want to make sure that nothing happens to your project, then you might choose the polyester thread. So let me talk about the color fast. I did a ball cap for someone one time in my business, and it was a white ball cap, and the logo that was on it was navy blue and red. Well, he didn't wear the hat for a long time. He stuck it in his trunk, and a water bottle leaked on it. So the thread bled all over that hat. And so, of course, I replaced the hat. Was it my fault? No. But, you know, still. So from that point on, in my business, I only used polyester thread because I didn't want that happening again. And you could do something for a child and you could bleach it. It's not going to fade. It's not going to bleed. So that's a plus for the polyester thread. Now, if you want something very soft and drapey because you want to do lace edges and you want to do something like that, and maybe you're going to need to press it a lot, then maybe you want to use rayon. If you're pressing polyester, it can get a little bit of that flattened look to it. So press from the back side and use a press cloth. Okay, so that is a standard 40 weight embroidery thread. This one is a 60 weight, so it's not as fine as the 80 weight, but I wanted to show you something here. So this is a cone, and if you clip it or just break the packaging on the bottom, hold it, and then give it a pop, it will pop right out of its little home there. And then you have this really nice, this is a fine thread. So this is a 60 weight. It's not as fine as the 80, but it is fine. So this is great for using on small letters. So is this, right? Small lettering, because you have tiny letters, you're going to have more of a opportunity for your letters to look really thick and gloppy if you use a 40 weight. So use the finer weight. I also wanted to point out, if you're doing outlines for faces or things like that, consider using a charcoal or maybe a navy or a soft navy instead of a black, because then it's not as harsh. So those are great threads to use there. Okay, now let's talk about specialty weight threads. This one is a serger thread, and this is called Arrow Flock. You may have heard of woolly nylon. This is similar, but it's different. You can see how thick it is, but it's really not, because when you pull it, it flattens down and it becomes thinner. And when it relaxes, it puffs up. So it will fill in for a rolled edge on like a napkin, or if you're sewing anything with elastic, this has a little bit of give to it. A lot of people will even use this in a cover hem when sewing performance knits, so the thread itself has a little bit more stretch to it. This is an item that you're going to put through the looper of your serger, not through a needle, because it's so puffy. Okay, then let's talk about these guys right here. This tall one is embroidery bobbin thread. So it's a finer weight, and so it's designed to let you wind a bobbin and get more on the bobbin because it is a finer weight. So if you have a machine that maybe takes a special bobbin that doesn't just use a class 15 or an L, so maybe you're on an Icon or an Epic or a Bernina machine, then it's best if you use the bobbins that are designed for that machine. So what I do is I'll take a spool like this and I'll get out 10 bobbins and I'll wind all 10 of them. Then I have my own pre-wound bobbins for doing embroidery. But it's really economical to buy it in a cone, and then it doesn't really take that long to wind those bobbins. So give that a try. Then the last weight that I have here for you, these are 12 weight threads. They are beautiful for both sewing and embroidery and bobbin work. The 12 weight thread is much heavier, and this one has a little bit of glint of metallic in it, which is really, really pretty. But these are larger. They will go through the needle. If you're using a top stitch needle, you can get this through the eye of the needle and you can actually sew with it. So it's really pretty to use this. Maybe you want to do top stitching on a tote bag and you want the top stitching to really stand out. That would be really cool. Or if you want to put it through the looper of your serger, that's really pretty too. And they're really beautiful to do embroidery with. Just keep in mind, since it's a heavier weight thread, you want to use a design that isn't a standard filled in design, because it would be too much thread smushed into a really small space. It's like putting on the jeans after Thanksgiving dinner. You can do it, but you just shouldn't, right? Okay, so if you want to have something with more impact, this is a really, really pretty thread and a great one to use. So that's pretty much the rundown of the different weights of thread. Thing you want to know is that the higher the number of the thread, the thinner it is. The lower the number of thread, the thicker it is. Oh, and by the way, you're not going to be using your needle threader probably with a heavyweight thread. just so you know. But anyway, have fun, explore with different threads, and don't be afraid of different weights. And if you have any questions, just call the store or stop in and we will help you with what you're working on. Oh, one more thread that I didn't have here that I should bring up is that a lot of times you'll find like an outdoor thread, upholstery thread, or even a buttonhole twist. Those are going to be heavier weight than a standard sewing thread, and they're designed to be really strong and hold together. So if you're putting together a bean bag for your kids to jump on, you might look for a heavier weight thread to do that. But anyhow, have fun, and I look forward to seeing you the next time at How Do I?